All right, welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Building for Dummies podcast. My name is Kyle Demian, and I'm here with Renji Matthew as well. And today we're going to be talking about the break-even burden and what it means to your retirement accounts. You see, as you're getting closer and closer to retirement, it's called the retirement red zone, where that's like your last 5 years before you retire and the 5 years after you retire, where you have to be very, very careful about how much risk you expose your investments and your retirement accounts to because of this break-even burden. And simply enough, what we're going to do is we're going to share our screen and kind of walk through an example, and then we're going to have Renji take us through some ideas and ways to help us protect our assets from this, break-even burden, and how you can make sure that you secure and have a more peaceful retirement, not having to worry about this burden, right? I think with that, Renji, I know I was going to share my screen. Is there anything you want to add, or should I just dive into the screen share and kind of walking through the slides?
Go ahead and dive in.
Let's do that. Okay. We'll have you cover after some different ways that people can protect against this. So as I share my screen here, we're going to start talking about the impact of losses and the break-even burden, right? So let's just take a second and imagine that you had $100,000 inside of your account, right? That's in the stock market. Let's say it's your 401k. This could be your IRA. This could be your SEP IRA. This could be a Roth IRA. Anything that's exposed to the market and is in the market, right? And let's say that you start off with your $100,000, but then after 1 year, we have a huge market crash and the market goes down 50%. Okay, so you started at 100,000 after 1 year. Now you're at $50,000. In year two, what percent gain would you need to get back to your $100,000? Now, here's the problem. Most people assume that because you lost 50%, you just need to gain 50% to get back to your $100,000 that you started with, right? But if you break down the math, a 50% gain on $50,000 would result in an extra $25,000 of interest, right? So your new balance would be the $50,000 plus $25,000. You would only be at $75,000 when you started at $100,000. So just to break this down, you lost 50% and gained 50%. Yet after 2 years, you're only at $75,000, right? If the market goes down another 50%, it comes back up another 50%. You're down even more. So this graph just illustrates that your average return is not necessarily the same as your real return. And we're going to get into the break-even burden and how this works and what that means for your money, right? But most people would think that if the market goes down 50, rebounds 50, goes down 50 again, comes back up 50%, most people think that your account would always stay at the $100,000, but that's not the case because that's not how money works, and that's not how these rates of returns work, especially when you're taking the losses, right? So all that to say, if we go one more screen, this is called the break-even burden. When you lose 50% and you drop from $100,000 to $50,000, a return of 100% is needed, because a 100% return of $50,000 would be $50,000 of interest, right? So that's how your $50,000 would gain $50,000 again to get you back to your original starting point of $100,000. So this is breaking down the math and how it works on the back end. And just as far as like what that looks to, depending on what percentage of loss that you have, this is what the break-even burden looks like depending on what loss you do take. And so, for example, in 2022, the market was down. It was actually down about 24%, almost 25%. So to get to break even after just 1 year, the next year you would need to earn a 33.4% rate of return on your money to get back to your starting balance. If you lose 30%, you need to gain 42% to get back to break even. And obviously you can see down here, if you gain 40%, or if you lose 40%, 45, or even 50%, like in the example that we just broke down, you need a 100% return to get back to break even, right? Now with that, the problem is, like we mentioned, if you're really close to retirement, that creates a dangerous situation where you lose 40%, you go to retire, and then you need to wait maybe multiple years just to get your money back, right, Renji? Can you kind of talk about, some of those dangers for people that are getting really close to retirement or maybe just retired? Like, what kind of impact this can have on them just because of needing to wait really for the market
Yeah,
to rebound, but it doesn't always do it, right?
yeah. Kyle and I both talked to so many people that either they're having to go back to work from retirement because they ran out of the income, or they're having to work longer because they didn't have enough saved up. And a lot of times they didn't check their accounts for so long because they had just assumed they would have more money by the time they retire. But what they don't take into consideration is these calculations that we just showed you. When the market goes down, it has to work more for it to come back up. I think there's I think it was Chase, JP Morgan and Chase, they said it could take up to 7 years to get back to what you were before if the market takes a major loss. But what they don't say is in that 7 years, it's not guaranteed that the market doesn't go down again, right? So you never know what will happen. So when you're younger, when you're in your 20s, 30s, stuff like that, you're not too worried about what the market's doing because you have plenty of time before retirement. But what we usually like to say, when you're in your mid 50s and older, you want to start thinking about protecting at least 50% of your retirement, at least. And more if it depends on your goals. Again, it's not what size fits all. You want to see where you're at financially and what age you want to retire by and how much you want to have every year income wise. And all those numbers could vary. So but when you're in your mid 50s, you want to start thinking about, okay, how much of this do I need protected from the market? Because if, let's say, you went with 50%, if 50% is protected from the market and 50% staying in the market, if the market goes up, you're going to grow in both. But if the market goes down, you're only hurting 50% of your money, right? So you want to diversify there too, because once you're retired, you want all your money protected, right? It's that example of going up the climbing the mountain, right? If you're going up the mountain, you're working hard, you're using oxygen, you're watching every step and everything. Once you get to the top, you're a lot of times people relax and you might not be as careful, you might not be paying attention to every step, or you might not be paying attention if you're about to run out of oxygen, stuff like that. In that same example, when you look at retirement, when you're going toward the top of the mountain, which is retirement, you're careful putting money away, all this stuff. Once you get to the top, you want to be able to relax. Once you get to retirement, you want to be able to relax. But if you're not careful, it could be your financial debt. And that's what's going to cause people to either go back to work or never actually relax in retirement, right? So we could talk about some ways of how you can do that. Anything you want to add to anything I said there, Kyle?
Yeah, I like that analogy you had going up the mountain because that's so often what it's like, trying to build wealth, right? And then when you get to the top of the mountain, you want to be able to, take some time and enjoy the views, right? Enjoy retirement. And
Hmm.
then I don't know if you knew this or not actually, but there's a statistic out there that um, the majority of deaths that come from mountain climbers is actually people on the descent, on the way
Hmm.
down, because they run out of oxygen, right? And that's similar to your retirement and people running out of money in retirement is like you mentioned financial death. That's the death of your retirement and you having to do a retirement do-over or AKA going back to work, which is never part of the plan of retirement, right? That's probably the last thing you're thinking about. So
Yeah.
with that, I love that analogy. And then you mentioned one other thing you mentioned in there too, like, once you get to your 50s or so, you should maybe have about 50% of your assets protected. And of course, that is a case by case basis, maybe how aggressive you are with the stock market versus maybe how conservative you are and whether you just want to protect your money. But general rule of thumb is whatever your age is, that should be about the same amount of assets that you have protected from the market, right? So if you're 54, 54% of your assets should be safe and out of the market on the side. Versus if you use that same scenario and let's say you're 30, if you wanted to, hypothetically, 30% of your assets can be safe and out of the market. Maybe in something like, savings accounts or like we talked about before, some other, safe growth options like cash value life insurance is a very good alternative as well because there's a lot of cool things you can do with that and a lot of tax benefits. But I really like that. Yeah, going up the mountain and protecting some of your money. Absolutely. Was there something else you were going to add on to that at the end?
No, I was just going to talk about how there's IRAs with the floor that,
Yeah.
if you wanted the same growth of an IRA without having the downfall of the IRA, there are accounts out there that have a floor. It's an IRA with the floor, so when the market goes up, just like a traditional IRA or a 401k, it goes up too. But when the market goes down, you don't lose anything. Your capital and your growth is all protected. So this is what we usually recommend. If you're getting close to that retirement age, think about what percentage you want in an IRA with the floor and how much you want to leave where it is. Because again, going back to the example we said before, in both cases, the market, when it goes up, you go up with it. But when the market goes down, you want at least that much percentage protected because you're closer to retirement. You don't have time to rate and take as much risk, right? So
Yeah.
because what you don't want to go back and start over, especially at that age. you, you can always start over working wise to start saving, but your health and your energy and all that stuff is you can't go back there, right? So there's no retirement do-overs where it's going to be beneficial unless you can live over 100 years and still work just like you were in your 30s or 40s, right? So you want to start thinking about, okay, how much of my money do I need to be protecting and not taking risk? Um, but yeah, that's what I was going to talk about.
Awesome. Yeah. And then with that, we do have one other graph we can kind of show you guys. Let's just show you what it looks like if you keep your money in the market versus electing to have one of these accounts that have the 0% floor Renji had just mentioned. And this shows what the difference would look like over the last 24 years. So it dates back to the year 2000 and it goes all the way
You're
up
not
until
sharing your screen
today's.
right now.
Um,
It's not sharing right now.
Let me see. I am on my side, so it might be one of the things where it's not relaying over.
There.
Can you see it now, though?
Yeah, it's showing now.
Okay, cool. So this shows the last 24 years of returns of the S&P 500. That's what the red line is. Annual returns of the S&P 500. So this is exactly what is done from the year 2000, 2000 on, and you can see what 2008 was when the market was down 38%, almost 40. And then, more recently, 2022, and the market crashed about 19%, almost 20. You can see where what this account would have looked like, right? That's the red line. The green line is just what Renji was talking about. It's an IRA with a 0% floor, and this one even has some caps on the growth. So it's not going to go as high as the S&P 500 would do. So what I mean by that is to show that the green account won't have all of the returns as the red account would, but you can see that, for example, 2019 looks like an easy year to show it. The green account would have only went up 17% in this hypothetical scenario, while the red account went up 28%. So even with less returns the green account has every single year than the red account does, you're still better off over time because you never took those large hits when the market crashed, like in 2022, 2008, or even in the early 2000s. Right. Renji, anything else you want to point out about this graph that I may have missed?
No, you did a good job on explaining. I just want to point to people that are seeing, like, you see every time on the red when the market goes down, on the green, you're plateauing. That's the benefit of the floor. And there are, again, like Kyle said, this one's showing where it's a cap. And what we mean by cap is if your cap is 10%, if the market goes 20, you're only getting that 10%. You're not getting the full 20. But there are companies out there that will do no cap. So your growth could be even better. So in this example, you see you started with 100,000 in 2000, and in the regular S&P, which again is the best index out there if you're not one of those people that like to look at the stock market all the time. If you just want to put your money there and forget it, S&P is probably one of the best indexes to choose because it's the Fortune 500 companies. It's the best industry, companies in the industries and stuff like that. So it's a good option to pick. But yeah, so you see when you started in the year 2000 at 100,000, you're close to what, 350,000 now, which is not bad. right? That's more than triple your money. But in that same scenario with the same index and everything, if you had the secure account where you have the floor, you're close to 500,000. That's way more money to end up with than if you were in the market. So this is what we're talking about, guys, to be able to just retire better, just retire well, right? That's what we want this podcast to be about. And we talk about retiring well with the traditional retirement plans and buying passive income and stuff. But if you like working where you're working and you just want to retire like a regular, working till 65 or whatever age and want to retire, we want to show you better ways to retire well so that you're not having to struggle and go back. Because like we said, we talked to several people that they're always having to go back to work because they ran out of their income at retirement, or they're having to work longer than they imagined because they expected to have more in their retirement accounts, but the market wasn't favorable to them, or they just expected to be right back where they were when the market went down. But the map that Kyle shared earlier, it doesn't always come back to right where it is. It has to grow so much more to get back to where it was before the loss. But if you have something like this where you have the floor where the market never goes below what you have in there, then you're going to end up with way more money than you imagined than in the traditional account. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to add.
I love it. And then the last thing I think we'll say about this, before we wrap up today's show, will just be that, these accounts are typically only available and eligible to you once you've saved up at least like $10,000 to $25,000. This isn't something that you can start up and just contribute to monthly. That would be a different type of, retirement account that's available. But these are meant for diversification, as you get closer to retirement, taking some of your 401k, and whether or not it makes sense to put, 50% of your 401k into something like this, or, depending on your age, your goals, and how close you are to retirement is really what determines what amount should go into here. But you do have to have saved up usually at least $25,000 or so. And as you can see, this example did start off with somebody having $100,000 in the year 2000, and just letting the market run its course over the last 24 years. So with that, I think that's a good stopping point to our show. If you guys want to talk about one of these, retirement accounts that have a floor on it where you're guaranteed to never lose any money, feel free to comment below and let us know. And then maybe we'll drop like a link below this to our calendars where you guys can schedule some time to chat with us one-on-one if you think this would be something that may benefit you, right? Renji and I both have free consultations where we'll do like maybe a 15 to 30 minute call, figure out where you're at, what your goals are, what you're looking to do, and maybe when you're looking to retire, and we'll let you know whether or not we can help you with this. And if we can't, or if we think something else may be a better solution for you, we won't waste any more of your time. We'll let you know, and we'll let you know if we can't help you. We've talked to people before that we simply just can't help, and it didn't cost you anything, didn't cost us anything. Like we said, it's just a consultation call to see if there's anything that makes sense. And with that, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that little notification bell to be alerted when we post our new videos, as we go live just about every single day. And we will have another guest on this week, and look forward to having more guests for you guys as well, just to give you guys other insights of building wealth, saving money, saving on taxes, and helping you guys build tax-free generational wealth, which is the end goal. Awesome. Well, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.